we are introduced to this like ghost bird
It's a
creature.
demon. Let's
I
be
don't really
clear.
know
It's
what
a
was it
demon.
called.
Um, oh, it's like something with an A. The adversary, I think
The
is
adversary, yes. Which sounds like the worst like villain name you could have. But anyway,
it's like a very clear, like it's in the title.
I
It's
know,
not
but
here to help you. It's the adversary.
it
Like
might as well have flown in and said, "I'm the bad guy." um, so
I don't think again, it's much like Mojo. It doesn't they're not like making it look warm and fuzzy because you think it's going to be your friend. It's the adversary, you know?
uh, so the adversary, I don't know if you knew this, is voiced by the same voice actress as Storm. So
I didn't know that.
she basically got to have like an evil half and a normal half and like have these conversations.
Well,
Um,
for how that makes sense though, both like thematically and
yeah, isn't that cool? I love
yeah,
that.
that's good.
So the adversary is basically feeding off her fear, like the fear that she won't have her powers back.
Yeah.
And then we're left with that. We're like, oh, Angry Bird. Okay, thanks.
It's it's straight like I don't know about you, but there are parts like so the animation in this in the whole series is very reminiscent of the original, but like better, like
Yes.
cleaner. But I know some people who didn't watch the original complain like, why does this look so janky? Or like, why does the animation look like this? Not janky, but like it doesn't look it looks different, I guess. But you know, obviously you're if you're coming to it from 92, you know the basis for it. But I think that it also has moments where it seems a little anime. Am I
Well,
the only one?
I was about to say that because I think I know I didn't read this or hear this anywhere, but from my perspective, they have the cleaner lines, the wider ratio, but they still have that shadow effect they always used in the 92 series. But they drew inspiration and like framing from animes, like in ways that they like I think the one that hit it the most to me was that episode one where Cyclops says the line to me, my X-Men, and they all like drop in behind him and pose. That was
Could
like
be like a
classic.
six-way like split screen of like
Yeah, like that was like a classic anime pose down trope to me. And I was like, I'm here for this, do this all the time. But yeah, I do think they were directly inspired by modern anime.
Yeah, I think stylistically, I don't remember what episode, but I feel like one of the times when like there's probably the Genosha one, when there's people with like blood, just the
Yeah.
like stark, and then even this bird creature to me seemed a little bit like Death Note-y. Like
Mhm. I
um
agree.
so
Um,
I just was like, am I watching anime or X-Men?
so
But I
uh
think I like the animation
I
as
I
well.
was really upset when they cut it off like right there when that bird thing was like just getting interesting, and I was like, "What?" Like, yeah, I knew I had to go through whole episode five before I would get a resolution for this, and I was just like, "Oh, dang it."
Well,
Um,
you might have seen the whole thing if we didn't have any Motendo, but
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I had to sit through the video game thing for like. So anyway, moving on, episode five, remember it, which I feel
oh,
like is going to be on a gazillion T-shirts for the rest of time.
my heart breaks.
I
Oh,
know. I put a story with the main character in this episode that just said, remember it. And I got so many likes that day because everyone must have watched it at the same time I did because they were all like, I'm dying. um,
I am a made like Rogue is by far my favorite. Always has been, always will be. And as a kid, I was always like, I want her and Gambit to get together, even though 92 Gambit was kind of like a problematic.
it was a little trashy too.
Um, but like, man, this one broke me. Like, besides just the general devastation of like genocide, I was just like, no. And it's comics. It's an X-Men cartoon. He's going to come back. Like, I know
Um,
this in my heart, but
I think maybe I was just hearing rumors that there's talk about them submitting this episode for the Emmys. And I hope it
I say go for
fucking
it.
wins because I'm looking at, okay, I still have IMDb up. I didn't realize until like the third episode when I was reading the descriptions. They have star ratings here, and episode 5 has a 9.7 with 8,000 votes.
Yeah, what I remember when I looked through, I thought it was the highlight of the season, and it is because
It's
it's not just
incredible.
Gambit. I mean, that is the main draw for me is like for a couple different reasons. Also because Gambit in this iteration, like he is jealous of Magneto and Rogue,
But
but I
he
also
never acts on it.
is so mature. That's what I was thinking is like she talks to him and is like, look, we shared something, and he's just like, okay, like we're still friends, and he's just ready to like be chill, and I'm sure he's not happy about it,
And
but
we didn't
he
we
is so
didn't mention
mature.
in one of the episodes, Morph and Wolverine were giving him a real hard time about it.
Yeah.
So he did not like in the original series, Gambit very easily could have like thrown a punch at Wolverine, and that would have been just,
And he would have, because those two, I'm telling you, on the basketball court, the
yeah.
one scene, I'm pretty sure it almost came to blows. Um,
But
Back in
like
the
that would have
day.
been completely in character, and no one would have thought twice about it. But he didn't.
No, and in fact, like I think in an earlier episode, it had to be an earlier episode because we lose him after this, but he and Wolverine did like a cool team move where he like charged up
Oh
Wolverine's
my gosh,
claws
the
and
that was in the trailer, and they didn't show the whole move, but they showed like them starting it, and like I just lost my glasses when I went back, but that's okay. As long as the dog don't eat them, we're fine. Um, Now the cat's eating. Stop it.
they are getting eaten. But yeah,
The cat thinks the dog, everybody. So um yeah, I knew that move was coming in episode 1, and I was just like, this is it. Like I was so excited.
but
Uh,
they're working together. Gambit this time around has been like
he's a team player.
he's a team player. He's not always like throwing fits and like threatening to leave. He's not being like a kind of snarky asshole. Like he made beignets in the first episode. I'm just like, this Gambit is the one we all deserved and the one
Uh,
Rogue deserves. And unfortunately, the arc in this season is that she's like, wait, Magneto's back, and I have feelings about that.
look,
Um,
I'm not going to read the description for episode 5 because it's they're literally not trying to tell you anything. So, Genosha's gonna be entering the UN. That was part of the agreement with Magneto getting his um amnesty, I guess is the word they might have used.
I
Um,
think it's also a PR thing to be like,
Mutants are cool people. Like, leave them alone.
yep,
Um, we support you. Um, so they are having,
tolerance, I think, is the key
yeah,
word here.
they are having a like I called it the Hellfire Gala abroad.
Is it just because Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost were
Yeah,
there?
yeah, because
Okay.
for those of you who don't know, the Hellfire Club was seen. They weren't called the Hellfire Club back in because they couldn't say hell. But the Hellfire Club was the group that tricked the Phoenix into thinking she was the Black Queen and all that stuff. But
I would argue they never fully tricked her. She
no, she just kind of wanted someone to care about her. But anyway, um, she the Phoenix, not Jean Grey. But
and
anyway,
not Madeline Pryor.
yeah, yeah. The actual entity of the Phoenix. But anyway, so in the comics, for the past several years, they have an annual issue called the Hellfire Gala, where the team that's on their version of Genosha, which I starts with a K and I cannot remember what the name of it is. It's essentially a mutant paradise. But they come out in their cool outfits, and that's where the comic actually announces who's going to be the primary team that year that the story's going to follow. And it was a cool plot device, and they could build up events online or about it and everything. So when I saw this, I was like, "They're doing the Hellfire Gala."
Oh, unfortunately, Jason, I think it's a lot more boring because I think they're just like on the board of directors of
Yeah, yeah,
Genosha. It's
it
like
was, it was.
this is
But
quite a different position for you.
they have a nice little ball of sorts, and they asked Magneto before it if he would like to be. They say what the title was.
King.
They said king.
Oh, maybe just because he says my queen, I need my queen, but like I think
I
president
think
is
he just
probably
okay. I
the
think he
best.
just said that as like the romantic motif to Rogue.
Yeah, he may
Um,
have just said leader, but I get the
okay,
impression
leader
it's supposed to
makes
be
sense.
like president,
I was thinking like chancellor or whatever like term you might use in a European country or something.
comptroller.
Yeah, want Magneto to be the.
Look, he just does a lot of accounting work. It's fine.
So
He
anyway,
makes
he's
sure all the
asked.
budgeting is good.
And by the way, the council consists of Sebastian Shaw and Emma Frost, as you pointed out, but also
Moira
Charles's
McTaggart
former, yeah, Maura McTaggart and Madeline Pryor is sitting there.
and Banshee. Yes, and
Banshee.
is that all of them? Just
Yes, because the one human is who did you just say?
Moira.
Maura. Yeah, thank you. I can never remember her name. Um,
Moira McTaggart. That's not that was not good.
no, which is really weird because weren't Sebastian and Emma Frost in a relationship?
I don't
Off and
know. I
on, I
feel
think
like
they
the
were.
Hellfire Club is like just this polycule where
They're just
everybody's doing everybody.
they're an
And
orgy. You got to be invited.
I mean, I respect their costume game, but I do think it's all just one big like eyes wide shut
All right.
situation.
I was gonna say if I felt bad because if Emma and Sebastian are a thing and Moira and Banshee were a thing, poor Madeline Pryor is sitting there like everybody has a man.
She just got there. She could find a partner. She could find a throuple. She could find whatever she wanted to find there. So, I mean, Genosha is the place where like it's mutant central. You're allowed to
Your
be out and
heart's
about.
content is out there.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a
anyway, so
lid for every pot.
the council, whatever that is, asked Magneto to be their leader, which I don't think he expected when he was invited. And so he was like, I just I just got this X-Men gig.
It's like
I have to run a school.
I've got
Like,
a lot of irons in the fire here, okay?
yeah, like my grades are due next week. Um, like I just got the UN to leave me alone. Like, you want me to be a leader? And there's a great line. I don't remember who says it, but they're like, um, something about we can't have a terrorist be our leader. And then Magneto would say was like, some would say your leaders are terrorists or something like that. And it's a great line.
Yeah.
Um, But so he goes to think about it and he goes and tells Rogue. And we didn't say the reason that Rogue and Magneto are banging all the time is because apparently
I mean, let's just reel it back. They used to be banging all the time.
it's
They have,
implied they are here because they're always sneaking off.
I don't think they are. I think that she is like having like the feelings are coming back, but she's confused because she also has Gambit. And I think she's been trying to sort of like
Talk him
figure out
down.
where she's out. We'll figure out where she's at, like mentally with the two of them. But like, yes, they used to be banging because Magneto can like he does like a magnetic
The
field
magnetic field
essentially.
on his body. Yeah.
Yeah, and so she can like touch skin to skin, even though it's like the magnetic thing. And so
It's like,
like
why is there a vibration between our
because it's a magnetic field and that's how it works. But still, she doesn't have to wear gloves and they
you
can
can be
kiss
half
and
naked in Savage Land.
they can have yeah, like Savage Land hot times, whatever. Which and also again, when we get to like maybe 2 episodes down the line and you see what Magneto's working with, it's like, girl, I get it. Get what you're saying, okay? Like I understand the conflict.
Anyway, um, he goes to tell her, and she's all like, I can't be your queen. And he's all like, well, we'll have to tell him. I'm not gonna do it if you don't do it or whatever. And but they agree they're gonna go and dance at this ball thing anyway. Um,
And it
because
is the most mutant dance
yeah,
you've
because
ever
they're
seen.
flying, they're spinning around. There's all sorts. It's they both look lovely. They have cool like costumes. It's great.
Gambit looks sad, but not confrontational.
Yeah.
Just kind of
Which,
like,
by the way,
oh,
Gambit's suit was hot too. He was had like the white tuxedo and it was kind of like John Travolta, but without all buttoned up all the way, like the wide collar kind of
it's
stuff.
very like Gambit 80s
Yeah,
fashion. Like,
yeah, it's great. He cleaned up nice.
yep.
Um, that scoundrel. Um,
Ugh.
so while this is all going on, Madeline Pryor's just chilling, and she's all like, she sees some stuff happening. She's like, "What's going on? I'm gonna walk over here." And then out of nowhere, Cable shows up, and she knows who Cable is because she has the memory when Jean met Cable like years ago, and she goes, "Cable," and he goes, "Oh, I'm too late," and he gets like sucked back into time. But she has a moment where she's like, "Nathan," like she's just like right before I get sucked away. And so she's all
No,
like,
mind connection, you know?
yeah. And she's like, what was that? And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. Tell us what happened, mate.
Oh, this is like epic and I love it so much and it's highly anime as well, but like over the horizon, like just the three-sided master mold head
The
and
kaiju.
presumably the body, but like this is a very Godzilla-esque sort of
Yeah.
like we just get the shot. And or I guess it kind of reminded me of Neon Genesis Evangelion, where it's like this huge thing just coming to destroy you, like all of you.
It's a
And it
giant
just
killing machine.
yeah, and it's just like let loose on everywhere, like just shooting lasers, like destroying Genosha as a whole. And so like Gambit and Rogue, they start going full force towards it. Magneto is trying to save people. Um, and so there's the cool, like very anime, like Gambit's on a motorcycle, Rogue's flying right next to him, and they're going straight into battle.
And
And
I should say Magneto again took a leadership role and he told Gambit and Rogue to save as many as you can. Like do what you
well,
can.
because now it's not just his team. This is these are his
It's
people.
his people. Yeah, like if you want to say it like a race, it's his race of people.
Well, but also like this is his I don't it's not like a country, but essentially
It is
is
now.
Genosha a country?
It is now. That's how you get accepted
Okay.
to the UN. You have to be a nation.
Well, okay, yes. Okay. So but they're like his people and he has just become like the leader of them. So he has a lot of responsibility on those shoulders. So he's trying to save people but Gambit and Rogue are trying to fight the Sentinels and essentially like they want to kill Magneto. And so the big battle happens, a lot of people die, a lot of stuff gets destroyed.
They
But
never say
ultimate
how many people die, and I think that was
it just
uh,
seemed like almost all of them.
in the comic books. The scene that this is being inspired by or whatever killed like 6 million people or
I
something
mean,
like
it's
that.
a whole nation, so
Yeah.
you have
So like
to
they
assume.
didn't want to say a number, I think, so they wouldn't get like a weird like rating or something. I don't know, but like
Well, I mean, it's genocide.
yes.
That's we're tossing out the G word here, which again, relevant to current events. Um, but
Which this
like,
was written before the current conflict that's been
which
going
is
on.
yeah, it's wild though because it's so. I was like, oh
Topical.
my, yeah. So, but they like a lot of people get wiped out. We don't see everyone because it would be, I think, A, really depressing, and B, like it take a lot of time to show. But we do see um Madeline Pryor gets killed. So
Mhm.
does it looks like Moira gets killed.
Yes.
Um, and I forget if there were
And
any other.
Banshee.
Okay, and Banshee. So like
I think Sebastian.
like so the whole leadership basically,
Emma Frost, we later find out survives, but she's the only one.
yes. They were in the Citadel probably. So yeah, but anyway, that happens and then eventually like Magneto does appear to like he's with a group of Morlocks and he sort of has like his magnetic dome over them, but we see this huge beam just hit him and it's very unclear. It's implied that like no one's going to survive that. He's dead. And then
And
oh, it's so
you
heartbreaking.
missed the part where he looks down at Leech, who's just a child, and he
Oh,
says in German, "Be not afraid," which is
little leech.
very like heart wrenching for anyone who had family. They grew up like in the World War II era and stuff like that. Like I imagine, like you really have to remember, like Magneto survived the Holocaust, so like
I mean,
for him to be witnessing this and trying to stop it is like very,
just
very
further
traumatic.
mental torture, yes, emotional, like trauma. Can we, like, he and Cyclops just need to have like a trauma off, because it's a lot. But
Maybe we need to find a mutant who's a great therapist.
good luck. I think they're all therapists won't see mutants, not your kind. Um, no, but anyway, yes, like Magneto presumed dead. And obviously all the Morlocks with him also presumed dead, which I think we do find out that they are dead.
Leech
Like
and
Callisto and
Listo are for sure because their photo is laid down at a memorial.
which is just like heartbreaking. It felt like not the tragedy of quality of like X-Men the movie, the third movie, but it was like, oh no, but they just got here.
Yeah. The
um
four Morlocks, Magneto took them to Genosha.
yeah.
Right when he decided he was gonna like be a good guy, I guess. Because
Yes, because one of his first acts was to save them
yeah,
from like
because
a group of,
he felt like they did not deserve to live in sewers and hide from the world.
yes. So I mean he didn't know what he was doing as far as like
No, it wasn't like
essentially.
premeditated or anything.
No, it's
Um,
just it's unfortunate. Because they went to try and be, and again, sort of like the parallel of current times of like they were just trying to find a place of their own away from people who literally all they're asking for is like tolerance, and I feel like we got to talk about that at some point. So yeah, this is like a tragedy, a genocide, full on genocide, and then we see presumably everybody's dead. But then Rogue is trying to fight these Sentinels, and Gambit is too. But Gambit gets like stabbed through the,
Impaled.
yeah, stomach, I guess, with from one of their like sentinel tentacle
It looked
things.
like they were haphazardly built with just like beams from buildings as arms because they were just like stabbing things with.
I think the implication was that they sort of all those scraps from the beginning
Mhm.
kind of like came together because of some of the events going on in the background that
Yeah,
we aren't really clear on yet. So yes, they are a little jankily put together, but they like impale Gambit and he just he just decides to make the sacrifice, and he and I didn't realize he was this powerful because it's a lot, but he's like, the name is Gambit, remember it. And then he like charges the thing, and like literally the entire master mold gets charged, and it is a huge explosion that also causes a bunch of damage, but it
it was the only
ends,
way.
yeah, it ends the fight. And so Genosha is in a disastrous state of
And we
affairs.
should say because I don't think people realize what Gambit's power is. They associate him with like throwing explosive playing cards. Gambit can charge any object that touches his body with kinetic energy. And so
Yes.
since the thing was stabbed inside of him, he's like, well, I'm gonna die anyway. So he uses the last of his power to charge up that whole kaiju sentinel.
Yeah.
Um, and boom, she went. And we
And
heard,
like,
sorry, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say he is left in a crater, and Rogue is there, and she says, I can't feel you, which harkens back to when they were talking earlier when he was getting ready, and basically it was like, okay, we can just be friends, because she was saying like, I can't like feel you, when she was talking about Magneto and how they're different. She's like, I can't physically touch you, and this was like, I can't feel you alive. And so it was just
She
like,
didn't have her, she didn't have her gloves on because she was at the vault.
yeah, yeah, so she couldn't steal any energy from him because he was
And
dead, and it was
she's
just
just
like,
cradling him, and it ends on that line. And just like Storm's actress's delivery with the I can't feel the wind, Rogue's actress tearfully saying Sugar, I can't feel you
it hurt.
ripped my heart out.
It
Like
was very
it
sad.
just cut to black at that moment. And like you're just like I imagine like years ago that that's what people felt like whenever they thought JR from Dallas got killed. And like that's
I thought he did get killed, and the mystery was like, who killed him? I don't know Dallas.
it was, but like when they came back or whatever, the thing was they retconned it and it was all a dream. And that
Oh
pissed me.
yeah, was that Patrick Duffy or whatever
I don't
wakes it?
remember. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
know the who shot JR thing. So like I imagine that's what they must have felt because that was such a talked about, like a newsworthy thing in television. And this was, like I said, everywhere. You could not go on social media without seeing the words remember it somewhere. It was trending, it was all over the place.
It was so sad. It like hurt my heart. I'm just like, no.
What's funny to me is that, like sometimes when I watch shows that are a weekly release, I like to watch like two or three YouTubers who review things like this. And sometimes they get screener copies ahead of time and they know what's coming before I do. They didn't know this. And so like they went through it the same like emotional experience that I did. And so like that really was my only outlet because none of my friends were watching this show when I was watching the show. You were literally the only one, and you were a little like a 24-hour delay from me. So I would text you and be like, "Oh my God!" And I couldn't tell you what was happening.
It was, yeah, it was rough. This was like the one that was like I cried.
Yeah,
I'm just like, why is
yeah.
the cartoon making me cry?
So
Emotions. Like, ugh.
when did you watch the show? Did you watch it in the evening or during the day?
I watched it in the evening, and I think I was like at least a day or two behind when they released because I live in the generation of binging, and
Yeah.
so I was like, "Are you kidding me? I have to wait a week?
Yeah, yeah.
I hate this."
I watched it every morning with a bowl of cereal before work. So I had to go to work after watching this. And like everyone's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I'm
It's
traumatized."
You got to watch things at night so that if you're emotionally devastated, you just go to bed
I'm
and
not sure that would have been
are
better.
sad.
I probably wouldn't have slept if I watched it at night. Like I don't know. It would have been
I had to watch something. I think I watched like a episode of The Office or so. I just needed something to be like,
how do I get out of this state?
I didn't just watch my favorite character's love die in her arms, right? That would be not true. Okay. So
So
yeah,
that's the episode that is probably going to get nominated for an Emmy if it's not already.
it's
Um,
very good.
and I don't know what categories it would qualify for. Like, can it compete in the same category as a live action series? Like, I don't know what the restrictions are. I know they have animated categories, but is there like a main category that can compete? Because this beats a lot of live action shows. This episode.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I will say like this is the first time it's coming to mind, but when I was watching this, I thought all of the fight scenes and stuff, like action scenes and throughout the whole season were cool. They were really good, really well done. Like this was amazing. Again, it had like this gravity to it where it's like that is something scary coming over the horizon
Yeah.
and just raining down destruction. And like I really did feel it of like, oh my God, like this is a big threat. This is not just
And they could have gone the route like Michael Bay, like so much stuff is happening you can't tell, but like this was vivid. You knew what was happening, you knew what power was being used, and like you could follow and understand the gravity of everything.
yes, it felt like it was a very no-win situation, which and I would say it was,
Yeah.
and except for the one single outcome that occurred, and that was like not a fun like, win. So
Oh.
it was just it felt very dangerous for them. So
So we have to pause the rogue story. She doesn't get her revenge just yet because episode 6 is Life Death Part 2. So Storm and Forge are gonna try and figure out what's happening with her powers still. But at first, we have to go into space and we visit
it's
the
important.
the Shirar. And I always say her name wrong. Lilandra.
I
The
believe that's how you say it. Yeah.
okay. Um, the Empress of the Shirar Empire has announced she's gonna marry Charles Xavier, and their people are also bigots, and,
Um,
and they're not so keen on this. Uh,
that's true. They're space bigots. I mean,
they're birds.
we are, I guess, technically to them an inferior race, but also Charles is like a mutant, so he has powers. So I don't know.
So I didn't realize this. You know how we have the rankings like Storm is an Omega level mutant and stuff like that. I just found out Charles is like an alpha level telepath.
Yeah,
Or
he is
not
not.
he's telepath, right?
He's a telepath.
Okay. Telekinetic is the other word I was thinking of. Gene is both. That's what I was trying
Right.
to figure out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like but he is not as like Jean. I think even Iceman is like um the like S level or whatever the highest level are. Like I think he has some like massive uh members of his team massively powerful, but like he himself he's just like a
That's why I
regular
need
guy.
Cerebro most of the time.
Yes, he's good at he has mastered his powers in a way that a lot of them haven't, and I think that's what makes him seem very important and appealing. But yeah, like put him up against the Phoenix and Jean Grey.
He gonna lose.
Yep.
So anyway, he's got robotic legs now, and he's all walking around, and he's a proud boy, and they're all like, "We don't want you as our king unless you're gonna like wipe your mind of all your Terran history." Um,
And it's like, why? Who cares? He's obviously been up here for a year. He's not like pining to go home. Like if he hadn't brought it up, he probably wouldn't have gone back.
they're like, if he even remembers that he lives there, he's gonna betray us or whatever. Which is funny because he takes them into a psychic classroom where he's like, "Class, we're gonna learn about tolerance."
I thought this was real like white man bullshit, if I'm being honest with you. Like I I I don't know if they meant it that way, but it's like, oh, I've met this race, this alien race that like they're trying to tell me something different. Let me school them on how this is gonna be. And it's like,
Let me
sir,
tell you why you're wrong.
you're in their like space. You're on their planet. Well, you're in their ship. Because I don't think they're on a planet.
They have an empire. They have many planets.
Yeah, you're in their space. Like you don't need to be setting them down in a classroom, telling them how it is from your point of view. I was just like, okay, white man, like calm
But I
down.
think he was trying to explain that, like, hey, differences are okay,
He
but
could do it in a less smug, like talking down to you way.
I
It
think
was
he
like,
really missed being in the classroom and being able to stand.
I mean, okay, I don't fault him for wanting to be able to stand. That's fine, but you don't need to like, school this alien race on like how they should be and how they should think. And I was just like, ugh, don't
Well,
be
so
a
this really
dick.
weird thing happened that I didn't understand. You know how, like, in Star Wars, like the original trilogy, when Alderaan is exploded into a million pieces, Obi-Wan says he felt like a million souls scream out within the Force or something like that. He gets like a weird, like, psychic, uh, and it basically told him what happened at Genosha, and he lets out this line that's almost become a parody online. He's like, "My children of the atom, they were singing, they were drinking, they were making love."
Well, calm down, Charles.
And I'm like, okay, you didn't have to say that part, but anyway,
You know someone at that party was definitely like
okay,
getting
but
on in
like,
a
it
bathroom
makes
or
it sound like he
something.
was watching, which is really pervy, and I don't want to know that. I'm not kink shaming, but I'm kink shaming.
Hey,
Um,
kink requires consent. You can't be spying on people doing it without them knowing it. That's not
Charles is a
kink, that's
voyeur.
pervert.
He's a psychic voyeur. That's his
That's
power.
a that's not good. That's not what you want.
So after he screams it, I don't know what the other people he had trapped in there were seeing. Like they just kind of disappeared. So I don't know if he just like let them go. But then he sees like a giant Gambit skeleton. And that's like
Yeah,
him knowing that Gambit died. And I guess that should have been our first clue that Magneto didn't die because he didn't see his best friend.
true. That's a good point. I just assumed it was like Gambit. It's part of his team,
One of his kids,
one
his
of his
children of the
children.
atom, his
Yeah.
gangbangers.
I don't know that they're doing that, all that, but yeah. Um, but he decides, all right, I don't need to teach these bird people how to be proper. I'm gonna go back and teach
Yeah,
my students how to be proper.
so he steals a ship, and we find out at the beginning of a later episode that he comes back. So episode eight, sorry, seven. Oh, we didn't talk about Storm. I'm sorry. So Storm and
The
Forge
adversary.
and the adversary, they kill the adversary somehow. I didn't quite understand.
The more I think about it, the more I think like because
They
um
didn't really kill it, I should say, in the first part, but then they killed it later.
I think the advers like part of me thinks the adversary is like because it's voiced by Storm's actress. I
An inner
think that
demon.
yes, I think it's an inner demon made external, and like you said, you seem to imply that you thought Storm got her powers back not because of the machine that Forge built, but because
I thought it was not clear if the machine did anything.
I mean, I don't think it did, but it felt more like it was in you all along. And
Yeah,
like,
which I kind of didn't like, but
um, yeah, because like that's not something that's actionable to if other people get hit with that ray, like how are you supposed like just believe and maybe make your own inner demons become external and defeat them.
go
But
cry in a cave and it'll work, I promise.
well, I mean, she had to overcome her claustrophobia,
Claustrophobia, yeah.
which is like a
Which
big
was a fun
thing.
callback because that was a big thing in the original trilogy
Oh
or
yeah.
original show.
Yeah, she did not like the Morlock tunnels.
No. She also did not like that. What was it, like a
The,
heat locker they put her in Genosha when she was a slave?
yeah, I mean, like nobody likes a heat locker, but she had the extra layer of it's very scary because I'm claustrophobic. You know, like it's not gonna be pleasant if you're not claustrophobic, but it's extra scary if you are. So yes. So like essentially she overcame her demon, the adversary, and then the adversary went away and she got her powers back.
And she flew around, got a new do. What do you think of the outfit?
I like it. I know you thought it was like a little sexy, too much, but I like that it harkened back to the classic. I think they were giving us a just a little dose of nostalgia of it wasn't ever in the 92 version, but it was like this was the original outfit that Storm came into the team with.
So
So,
I wish they would have done it slightly different. Okay. So in a later episode, we see everybody go to a basically like a storage place at Mora Taggart's island that I can't remember, Muir
your
Island.
island. Yeah.
And it has all their old costumes. And even
Yeah.
Storm's costume is in there. So I'm like, why didn't you just wait and give her her costume when everybody else got her costume? This felt like, oh, I'm using magic and I'm not gonna wear as much clothing. And I did I
Because
didn't
I think it's like a return. She beat her inner demon, and it's like a return to her, like her origins,
I
her.
guess.
Because like
So I know this sounds trite coming from a man, but like in the original show, I liked that the female characters weren't running around in like bikinis and things that were like seen as sexy in comic books at the time. And I thought like that made because everyone's outfit looked practical, if that makes sense. And so like
can
if
I can I say one thing about the outfits though? They had the like comic book boob sock
yeah,
effect.
yes, I
And I
didn't
do
like that
appreciate
part.
that in this series, it's very much like this is how clothing would fall on you, a
I
person
I
with boobs.
I do have a comment about boobs in a second, but anyway.
Of course, as a man, you have to have a comment about boobs.
To be fair, I read it. It wasn't my. Oh, it's not an opinion. It's a
You know what?
fact.
Anybody can talk about boobs. I'm not even offended. Boobs are great.
So
Love
anyway,
boobs.
anyway, so when she gets her powers back and she's wearing it wasn't like a bikini bottom, but it was very short, and she has the knee-high boots, so you can see the top of her thighs, but you can see like part of her cleavage in her top and stuff. I was like, I don't know if I want to sexify Storm right now, and she was such a badass character, and so like the kind of like I
But
didn't I didn't like the
sexy isn't
rewind, if that makes
sexy
sense.
isn't bad.
It's not bad, but I didn't want to feel like she was being objectified, if that makes sense, just for the sake of doing it to somebody.
I get what you're saying. I disagree with I don't think they were framing her as being like objectified. I think you can be sexy. It's more about the lens of like, is it for the male gaze or is it because like they weren't doing like weird like frames where like here's her butt just like
Yeah.
all up in your face and like here's her naked chest because in the comics she does when Xavier recruits her like she is a
And,
goddess. I don't know why
and
I said it like that.
she's a nudist at some point.
She has only underwear on and like her hair just very strategically covers her chest the whole time. But like
Very Adam and
she
Eve.
she's living out like in the she's like close to the earth, like she's naturally so like I don't think that this costume necessarily like objectifies her, and
This
I
would have
don't
been
think we
my
should think
preference.
sexy's bad.
I would have
So
I would have been more kinder if she would have had like full-fledged pants and then like maybe a shorter top so they still had kind of like the separation between the material. Yeah, because I think that's more like the X-Men Evolution costume I've seen her in. I didn't watch that show, but I've seen clips of the costumes. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that would have been more. I love that all white costume with the sleeves and stuff. I
oh,
think
me
it's
too.
like classic, and like so I was just offended they went away. But yeah, I don't know. Just I never liked that costume in the comics, and when it came, I was like, don't do this. What are you doing? And I
I
was
mean, for better or worse, I was just like, ooh, nostalgia bump, and
I
I
knew that's
did,
what it was. I'd like so, but
yeah, I
I
think
didn't
that's
know
all it
that
was.
they were going to do it for everybody. But like I knew that that's what that was for her.
I
So
will say when she had the white costume, I love that they went with the Mohawk Storm because she
yeah,
had beautiful like
I
locks in
I
the
was
first season.
I was upset with the Mohawk going away so soon.
Yes, I love the Mohawk. I was like, please, let's keep that.
And I don't remember which actress played Storm in X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men Dark Phoenix, but she also rocked the Mohawk, and
Alexandra Ship, and I thought she was a great Storm. Like she,
she looked amazing. So like
yeah.
Marvel, take notes. So when you're casting for Storm, I've seen rumors they've cast Janelle Monáe as Storm, but she's kind of short, and I'm not sure that's how you want Storm to be. But um,
I think it's more about presence.
yeah,
Like if you've got the presence that
I mean
the
she
like
has a presence. If you've ever seen her on like perform, she commands a stage. So
I think that's what's important for a Storm.
I think they should take her photo and CG a mohawk on it and see what they can do with wardrobe and get her a wig that will. I'm not saying well, she had a mohawk at one time in her career, but I'm not saying tell her to cut her hair if she doesn't want to.
I love a Mohawk Storm. Um, so and
So
she got her nostalgia outfit early, but you know what? That might just be because we don't see her for
a
a
couple
full
of
episode
episodes.
after
Yeah.
this. So
Um. So real quick boob story. So in the original series, and I found this because oh, it's right over there. I can show you guys the book at the end of the show. There's a book called Previously on X-Men, and it's written by the original creators and showrunners. They talk about all the ups and downs they faced getting that show to production.
Oy.
And apparently, once the show was a hit, Haim Saban, who owned the studio, which same Haim Saban who owns Power Rangers. For those of you who hear me talk about him and other things, um, he's a penny pincher. So he was like, oh, so he didn't have an animation studio. So he basically only had the writers
Oh
and
God.
the consultants with Marvel. So he had to outsource the animation. So so he's getting paid by Fox to produce this show. So he's like, okay, how can we cut costs so we get more money? And so he thought, okay, let's try a different animation studio for like 3 episodes and see how they do. And if they're good, we'll switch. And if they're not, we won't worry about it. The episodes where they introduced Lady Deathstrike in the sewers
Yes.
is what they sent to a different studio in the Philippines, and their original studio was in South Korea. And they had not seen the show; it didn't air in the Philippines, and but they knew the comics. So to them, female characters have gigantic breasts. So
Yep.
they gave her some giant big hoo-has. And they gave her some generous physics to go along with it. So
Ugh, her back is screaming.
yeah, and so they get the show back and they're like, we can't air this. And so they had to pay American studio artists to come in. And they actually she did not have the white shirt in the original. She just had like suspender looking things over her boobs. So they had to draw in the white shirt on every frame, and they had to strategically make certain frames last longer so she would not be bouncing all over the place because they were afraid that the standards and practices at Fox would not air the episode.
Yeah, I've heard tale of the standards and practices being
Yeah,
a
so
bit much.
those
But
3 episodes ended up costing them more than what they would have paid the South Korean studio. And this happened more than once. Every time Haim Saban tried to get cheap and chancy with the production, they end up paying more to correct whatever they did.
I feel like this is where we need the like Arrested Development armless guy to come in and be like, and this is why we don't outsource for the
Yeah,
lowest price.
yeah, yeah. But so I think that's funny that that was such a concern, and like when I saw, because I was exposed to X-Men the animated series first, and then I was exposed to comic books, and I was always like, why does every woman in comics have giant boobs? And like, because I was
Because
used
men.
But like I was used to the X-Men characters on the show whom they did not do that to. And
No,
so
I mean it was a children's cartoon, but like men
yeah,
is the answer to your question.
I know, I know. But like that cracks me up every time I think about it. Anyway, moving on. Episode 7, we pick up with Rogue and the funeral for Gambit. Um
Oof.
we have some cameos in the funeral. Which, by the way, there's a cute scene where Morph is holding the umbrella for Wolverine, which I think is adorable. But
I
uh,
love their friendship. I know it's not like Morph is a made up for this cartoon
yeah,
character, but I love that Wolverine has connected with him for some reason.
they are homies.
Yes.
So um, I forget who they are, but there's 2
It's
cameos.
Belladonna, Gambit's brother, whose name I forget, and then I don't know who the other woman is.
The other woman is an obscure character from, I think, the whatever it's called, the Weapon X stuff.
Is
And
she here? Is she in the Thieves Guild?
I don't think so.
Okay.
um but I'll try and find her name later, and maybe I'll put it in the comment or the description for people who watch the video. But um people on the internet tried to figure out, did she ever have a backstory with Gambit? No. So like no one knows why she was there.
Was she like the date of his brother? Like, did somebody invite her as their
It was
second?
the
Like,
one woman, the guy you mentioned that was his brother, and then her. And then like it was just like, okay, who are you? Why are you here? And like
I also thought it was weird because I knew it wasn't Rogue, but she had hair that was
he
like
looked
sort of
like Rogue.
similar. And I'm like, what are you doing? This is not like in a show with real people. They would have
Cast
specifically
somebody
found,
different.
yeah, actresses that didn't look close to
Yeah.
who was already on the show.
I almost wonder if they had a cameo quota and they're like, who can we stick in here? We need a female character.
I mean, isn't that what Morph is for? Honestly,
That's what
like
I thought.
he hit some highlights. He was Reed Richards at one point, which like isn't even like an X-Men.
But that what's funny is we'll talk about the Reed Richards spot. So like he turned into a character that could stretch and then intentionally stretched for no reason so he could flap in the wind.
He's
like
Morph. He has a sense of humor.
like you didn't need to do.
I mean, if we're taking a little like diversion on Morph really quick, here's my thing is in the original 92 comic, not comic, but show, I thought Morph was very similar to Mystique where he just shifted shapes. I didn't think he actually got the ability to
So
use powers of the
the,
people he morphed into.
the showrunners have clarified his powers because there were questions. If it is a physical ability, he can do it
Okay,
because
because he turned into Quicksilver and he ran really fast. And
yeah,
I was like, wait a minute. Like,
if it's something like that has to be like shot or like a telepathic thing, he can't do it. If it's something like strength or like stretchiness or running fast, he can do it. So like
okay.
it has to do with the if it's a body feature.
That seems like a cheat, but I'm not mad about it. I'm just
Yeah.
like, this is not how
It
he originally was.
it does differentiate him from Mystique though. So I will allow it.
It does. Yes. I just remember like one aspect of the 92 series was when he was working for Sinister because he was having problems.
Yeah.
He had trauma. This was his trauma.
Yeah.
He morphed into various members of the team and like one of them was Rogue and he like touched Gambit and nothing happened. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's because he doesn't get powers, right?" Like
Yeah, he doesn't have the enhanced ability to but he could probably punch really hard. Does that make sense? Like he would have her physical ability, but
I
not
mean,
like
if I had that, if that was my power, is like I could have the physical ability, I would just be someone strong constantly. Like,
well, there's a part where he transforms into Hulk
yes, and he smashes. He
and he
says morph
smashes.
smash.
But if you notice, he also has Jean protecting him. Like he has like the ray of blue around him. So it's like go ahead and smash into things and be strong, but you're not as strong as
You're
the
not, yeah, you're not gonna not get hurt. Okay. Okay. I'm glad somebody clarified it because I'm like, I know for a fact he was not using people's powers in the first
yeah, like if
series.
he became Cyclops, for example, I don't think he could do the blast.
Okay. All right. I
But like
can jive with
but
this.
he can run or he can fly or he can um stretch and do
He
those.
juggernauted at one point.
Yeah. So
So,
there's a line he can't cross, which is fine.
and
Uh,
I will say they integrated it so well that sometimes I would like, if I wasn't paying close attention, I'd look up and be like, the hell is Juggernaut doing?
yeah, I
And
did
then I was
that
like,
too.
oh yeah, okay.
There's one scene where like I was like, oh look, um, oh not electric crap. What's her name?
Psylocke?
Yes, Hylock. Thank you. I was about to say Olivia Munn. Now I was like, think it's a
She's
character.
not an X-Men.
um, yeah, Psylocke showed up, and I was like, "What? Did I miss? Or they invite her?" And I was like, "That's Morph. Never
Yeah,
mind."
he just they have him integrated so well into like the fight scenes where it's like, wait, what? And like when he showed up as Quicksilver, I'm like, why is Quicksilver here?
We'll
They're
mention
not
we'll,
friends.
we'll mention Quicksilver in a minute, because something with involving him is coming up. So while everyone's at the funeral, they're like, "Where's Rogue? She should be here," and she's like out just destroying stuff. involving Oliver Trask.
She's
Um,
I don't well, you got to give her a little more credit. It's a planned situation.
Planned violence.
She's not destroying just anything. She goes to like a shield facility where Thunderbolt Ross is to ask to like find out where Trask is. Or no, Gyrick. She's going after Gyrick.
Which, by the way, I did not realize that was supposed to be Thunderbolt Ross until somebody told me.
It, it just had the Ross
I didn't
like,
notice until somebody
and
said.
also he had the line of like everyone's like worried because she's punching through the ground basically, and they're like he looks around, he goes, this is made to resist the Hulk. Don't worry. And then she's just like, sir, she is essentially Captain Marvel. Like,
Which I'm kind of sad they didn't play that up more because we did get introduced to that in the original series. So
yeah, which yeah, as a kid that blew my mind. No, but so she goes there, and then he's like, I don't have anything for you. And then she tracks down Captain America. I guess he may
I
have told her where Captain America was.
I don't think that's what happened. I think they gave her intel on a place that where like old Weapon X stuff was or something because it was in Canada.
Yes, and like he was in a cabin, and then below the cabin, it was very similar to Captain America Winter Soldier, where
Yes.
they found the old thing. And Captain America was just like I thought this was relevant too. He's just like, look, I can't help you because how would it look if I were to help the mutants? And I was just like,
I can't be
come
involved in
on.
your drama.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. It's like it's very much the like, I'm an ally, but like not if it's gonna make me look bad.
yeah. And also he says, we gotta play this by the book, Rogue. Like they like he was like I this felt like Rogue is the military and he's like playing detective over here. And it's like, no, we need to actually do something instead of play detective, Steve.
I like fully felt her when she was like, well, I guess you're not gonna need this, and then chucked his shield off into the
Yeah.
distance.
Poor
I was just
phrasing
like,
on Steve Rogers' part, saying his hands were tied, and she's like, well, if your hands are tied, you won't need a shield.
yeah, and I'm just like, you are not my movie Captain America. Like he
So
would
they
never.
they never showed Steve Rogers in the original series without the call or whatever it's called on his head, and later we see him without it, and I was like, you got some nice blonde hair, Steve Rogers.
Yeah, animated Steve Rogers is like super American Pie, like
Yeah,
blonde, blue-eyed, like Aryan
which to be fair
wonder
is
child.
they originally portrayed Chris Evans. He was very blonde in that first Captain America movie.
But it was like you could tell he wasn't natural. Like,
I
this is
know,
not
I
the
know,
color of his hair.
I know.
Um,
It's a good flashback to me. I liked it.
I
Um,
love MCU Captain America, which is wild because he's such the nicest boy, and that's really not. I'm a more of a Gambit lady, less of a Captain America lady, but like I think the MCU version of him is great. This animated version made me mad,
yes.
and I was just like, you cannot sit there and say you're not going to help because of how it looks. That's horrible. You're Captain America. You're supposed to help because it's the right thing to do.
So I think that was intentional because they wanted to land that this is an X-Men show. This is not an Avengers show.
It's true. Yeah, that's fair. Also,
Uh,
I know like Wolverine um has had like issues with like he's had run-ins with like the Hulk and Captain America as well. So I know that they have a history of like the crossover, but I don't know that I would have pegged Rogue and Captain America ever like one-on-one just
yeah.
having a chat. Like,
I wonder if this will lead to because we're at least getting 3 seasons, and if not more, because three have already been put through the production of the scripts and everything. And Marvel is said to be very happy with it, and Disney's like just over the moon with it.
that's very
So
exciting.
they're gonna keep this going as long as they can because it's not connected to anything else. They don't have to worry about like what the movies are doing or anything.
I've
Um,
always loved that for the X-Men. You're just kind of the weirdos over here doing your thing, and it's just like, ugh.
so I wonder if they're gonna later do an X-Men versus Avengers conflict where they're on different sides of an issue. So
I mean, when we got in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, I when freaking Charles Xavier showed up, I was just like I was overly excited, and I'm like, this is not the point of this movie, but it was the highlight of the movie for me. I'm just like, yes.
Fun to point out that he was the only one willing to help Wanda. And she's a mutant. And it's like you immediately make her look like she's a bad guy. Sorry, Team Wanda.
Yeah.